Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for staying with us. We have a very important guest speaker today. We have with us Miss Anja Monrad, which is Senior Vice President and General Manager at Dell Technology from Central Eastern Europe. And I would like to tell something about Anja. She is a strong believer in technology as a force for good, a passionate supporter of women in all lines of life, and an advocate for the spread of digitalization across Europe. Anja, thank you very much for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. That was a great introduction. Thanks. Thank you.
Well, so honestly, much. I really like this. A strong believer in technology as a force for good. Yeah. And I'm not, yesterday we had a very marvelous presentation regarding how to use technology in a force for good, but it's not always used as a force for good.
Yeah. No, hey, I'm a digital optimist, and I've always been a digital optimist. And I think, you can find issues in everything, right? And being here by CIOs and like-minded, I hope you're all optimistic around IT. But it's just like a knife can be used for something good, or if you really want to, you can use a knife for something that's not so good, right? And I do believe that we have an immense opportunity with IT to impact lives, to make lives easier for ourselves as citizens, but also, how we use IT in businesses. And and I think Absolutely. If you think about the last couple of months, where would we have been as a society if we haven't had IT? So if there's
that was actually I was wanting, to start with. So basically, Anja, we have in a severe sanitary crisis. We all know about that. So we basically moved from the so-called old normal to the new normal. So everybody's working from home right now, or from anywhere. I'm working from home right now. I'm moderating this event of the CIOs from Romania. And we noticed that, for instance, the business towers or the city centers in major cities are, I would say, almost empty, but pretty empty. So how the new normal will look like, from a business perspective?
Yeah, I think you're right. The whole, if you think back in March, the whole world packed up in a couple of days and moved online, right? And it wasn't just in parts of countries or cities. It was like basically globally, everything closed down, moved online. Hey, if I knew what the new normal would look like, I would probably be off, living up doing speeches around that. I don't know, but I do think that we got a lot of learnings from the last couple of months that we will bring into whatever the future will bring, right? I think one of the learnings that many of us have had, and some of us, if we look at the Dell Technologies, we've been working from remotely or having what we call connected workplace for over a decade. So it wasn't anything new for us. But I think what we learned over the last couple of months is that work is not a place. I think we knew that, but it's not even a time. It's an outcome, right? So it's not where you work and which hours you work, because as we had to be caregivers and parents that would educate children as well, because schools were closed, then the timing element became an issue. And then work wasn't an 8 to 4 or 9 to 5, it's an outcome. And I think many leaders may have considered working from home was a synonym of like having a half day off in the past. I think now everyone is starting to learn that, it's an outcome, and the productivity have even gone up. I think we've learned that the work-life balance in many cases have been good. We've done a lot of good for the environment of not having airplanes flying around, everyone going by cars into work. The productivity have gone up. So the whole importance of IT have really been realized, right, in the last couple of months. And So if there's one thing that I hope we're gonna learn from this new normal is the importance of digitalization. And what took maybe 2-3 months in the past was done in weeks, or what used to take weeks in the past was done in days. And I think that we may have done a light version of digitalization now, where we have time to rethink the things. And we're like 6 months into this. It's about time that we start thinking about what is the right way of doing digitalization, and not just the quick and light version.
I'm curious, you picture very well the new normal, and picture in a positive way. And, speaking about work and life balance, it was in a positive way. Do you think there will be a chance to go back to the so-called old normal right now?
Oh, there's definitely some parts of the old normal I really miss. I miss getting out of my apartment here in Copenhagen and getting out to visit my team. I would have loved to have this session face-to-face in Bucharest. So there's definitely some elements of the business interactions that I think we're missing. I think that what we're seeing, we've had a huge boost in productivity as well. Our business performed very well in the first 6 months of the year. So I think we from that perspective, there's nothing that we can put a finger on. But I think what we're seeing is that acquiring new business, creating new relationships is becoming more and more difficult in the Zoom world, right? So if you think about elements like, capital, for me, there's this element of relationship capital. So the people that we had good relationships with, we were using that capital. We were like taking credits out of that capital and in engagements. But building new customer relationships is becoming more and more difficult. So I hope that part of actually visiting and being together. Me flying into Bucharest for a 15 minutes one-on-one discussion would probably, in the past, if I told you, you know what, I don't have time for that, or that's not very suitable, let me dial in for that. You would have said, that's very arrogant of you. Can't you even come here and be here with us for those 15 minutes? That's important for me and for everyone on this call, in this meeting, in this conference. I think going forward, a part of my meetings would be done on Zoom. And if the rest of the day is going to be done in Romanian anyway, there's no point in me sitting there. So some of those cases, I think we're going to see less, of those kind of like things that will be done online. But I think there's a lot of the old part that hopefully will come back soon.
When we'll be back, into the new normal, in a physical interaction, you will come to Bucharest for 45 minutes, I can promise you.
Okay,
so.
I would love to do that. Thank you.
You are representing Dell Technology, one of the major company in the technology field. So please tell me, how did Dell EMC supports currently the so-called new normal, and how they supported the CIOs and the IT communities and businesses at the end, in migrating, having a smooth migrating to this new normal, into this world of full of volatility.
Yeah. So there's different parts of that question, right? There's what are we doing for society and the communities we live in, and what are we doing in the business relationships we have, and what are we doing with our employees, right? So we packed up everything over a weekend again. We sent 160,000 people home, working from home, and equipped all our teams. We've done a lot for our team members to make sure that they can work from home, that they can be caregivers, that they have additional time off so they can take care of their families, of their children, and other things. In terms of society, and it kind of like ties a little bit into what we've done with our customers as well, because there was a huge need for remote working equipment, laptops, desktops, monitors. Over for a couple of days, everyone was yelling and screaming and saying, "Hey, we need to get up and running," right? And there is still a supply challenges in the world market of IT. we prioritized our customer and our customer relationships over just going out and trying to acquire a lot of new business. We said we have long-term relationships, we're going to work with those. We prioritized everything around education, research, hospitals. So everything around something that could support the situation we're in now. So if we had laptops, we would sell them to schools, to universities, to research hospitals. And we made sure that all our hospitals and research institutions were up and running. On top of that, the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation have donated over $100 million to work around finding a cure and finding a vaccine for COVID-19. And I think that goes a little bit back to being a digital optimist and the force for good in IT. I don't think that we're going to find a vaccine and a cure fast enough without IT, right? So just being able to collect information from hospitals around the world and pulling that in. So we've taken part of our data centers and given that to some of our research partners as well, and said, use our data centers to go and do the data crunching you need to go and find, a cure fast enough, right? So just a couple of examples.
That's very interesting to link, the finding a vaccine with the technology is a very interesting idea, and it's absolutely real. Listen, Anja, we had, in our first day of the conference, we had several presentation, and one of them was pretty disturbing when it comes to discussing about, they were presented the statistics with so-called digital illiterate in Romania, and honestly, we have a very large and very good IT sector in Romania. We have I think, #1 in communication in Europe in terms of speed, because we launch it to, but they said something like 69% of the population is digitally illiterate, which is very huge. And I heard that in Europe and in all over the world, basically, the number is, I don't know, there is a gap, definitely. So on the other side, we are migrating to a digital world. So it's kind of confusing having such a large part of the population which are digitally illiterate. And how can we leverage this gap between, digital needs, digital skills needs, and digital illiterate?
Yeah, so one of the things I do outside my work in digital in Dell Technologies, I'm the chairman of the Digital Skills and Job Coalition in EU. There's a Romanian coalition as well. I think it's called Skills for IT, Coalition IT. And there's coalitions in all of the European countries that we're working with. And you're right, as well as Romania is on the forefront of connectivity, you're lagging behind on almost every other thing. So in what's called the digital index and digital and economic and skills index, the DESI index, you're the second lowest in all of the EU. So there's a huge opportunities there, and it's a huge problem. So if you look at, again, the COVID situation, it wasn't just about companies going online. It was also citizens in countries that were forced to communicate with doctors, that were forced to having their children educated. So we need to lift the whole level of digital skills in all of Europe up, because as much as I would hope that this is the last time we're going to be in this situation, unfortunately, I don't think it is. I think this is like a audition for other crises that we're going to have in the future, and I do believe that digitalization is going to be key in that. So if you look at some of the stats for Romania, you only have 3% selling online, where that is 23% across EMEA, across Europe. You have 29% shopping, where that's 71% across EU. You had 11% in banking, where that is in the 60s in the rest of the EU. So if we're going to be going back to an online world more and more, that's a huge opportunity for the companies and the public sector in Romania to go and improve on digitalization, right?
Yeah, Thank you very much. I would like, in 1 minute, 1 minute and a half, maybe, just send your message to our CIOs. We got more than 250 CIOs over the line and over 500, IT professionals registered at this conference. So please send some recommendation to IT community and business community from Romania.
Yeah, and I think it ties into what I just said in terms of the opportunity of lifting the country. What we've seen when the COVID crisis hit was the companies and institutions that were already on the digital transformation journey managed to accelerate that. The ones that were not were really, really struggling, right? And I think the role of the CIO is going to be crucial in the next upcoming quarters of bringing their companies and bringing their institutions on that journey of digitalization, for the better good of all of us. And Dell Technologies are here to help, but my colleagues in the industry are here to help. And we can bring best practices from other customers, from other parts of the world, and help you on that journey. But there's no doubt in my mind that without a more digitalized world, we will not get through the pandemic now, and we will not be ready for future situations. And then, even if we don't get into a bad situation like this again, digitalization is a huge business opportunity of optimizing your business. So, just switch gears from the fix and break and keeping lights on into how do I transform my business going forward and become a business partner for that.
Anja Monrad, thank you very much for being such a digital optimist, and thank you very much for all the thoughts and insight. And because we have to lift this country to a digital world at the end of the day, well, it was a real pleasure to have you on board on CIO Council National Conference, and we'll be waiting you for the next edition. And I can bet you will have more than 15 minutes. Thank you very much, Anja.
I would so much look forward to that. Have a great conference, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.